for Prakashatma Prabhu or Malati Didi? No? Is Malati Didi here? I think she's before Prakashatma Prabhu. Malati Didi? No? I don't know if we have our next speaker also after that, after Prakashatma and Malati Didi. We'll have Vijay Prabhu from Bangalore. Is Vijay Prabhu here from Bangalore? No? It's a little bit early for him. We have about 20 minutes for each speaker. I know Ramananda Prabhu is here. He's speaking after that, after Vijay Prabhu. And then Jagat Bandhu Prabhu from Delhi. Ramananda Prabhu, can I take advantage of your presence? Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadribhyascha kripa sindhubevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. If I can be audacious and ask you to speak, would you agree to that? Okay. All right.
Vijay
You're
Prabhu
ready
is
for that.
also online,
I'd
Prabhuji.
like to introduce Ramananda Prabhu.
Okay.
You'll have to excuse me. I'll have to come in and out of my mic so you can hear me, but I can't hear you at this point in time. But I will turn my mic off so that when you start to speak, you'll be heard. I'd like to introduce you by saying a warm welcome. We met yesterday and you spoke very nicely about your experience with Srila Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Bon Goswami Maharaj. You were a disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and you met him when you were very young, relatively speaking, and you had many interactions with him and you traveled with him also. But he kind of gave you over in the hands of Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj at that time, Subhasaka Prabhu. You have many stories because you've traveled with him such a long time and many experiences, much Vapu Seva, and many interactions I know over the years. And he's very fond of you. I remember when you not there that he remembers you when you're supposed to be there. And as he remembers you, you sometimes make this dramatic entry, and it's all very pleasing to us to see this coming and going relationship between the two of you. So please, without much ado, if you don't mind starting us off today, I know you're third on the list, but I've announced and asked for the other speakers and nobody's come up forward. So since you're here, I'll take advantage. We have a good crowd already. We have 26 people listening, and I'm sure they'll be happy to hear your presentation. Thank you very much, Ramananda Prabhu. If you unmute yourself.
No, you can do it, Prabhuji. I already. No?
Sham, it seems like he
Yeah,
can't.
yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Now?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. You can hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Am I going to? Okay. Yeah.
But your voice is very slow, Prabhuji. Very slow.
My voice.
Now is okay.
Now is okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I come a bit closer. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. First of all, I offer my most humble Dandat Pranam unto the lotus feet of my Paramaradhyatama Gurudeva Om Vishnupad Paramahans Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And thereafter, unto the lotus feet of Om Vishnupad Srimad Bhaktivedanta Bana Maharaj for this celebration of his appearance in this world and in our lives. So I had the inexplicable joy and fortune by the mercy of Srila Gurudev to meet Srila Maharaji for the first time in 1997 when he came on tour with Gurudev's to England, the first place where I saw him. Gurudev's second tour, Srila Maharaji came as Subal Sakha Brahmachari, and he came and he was doing the bhajans at the festivals, he was playing mridanga, he was cooking for Srila Gurudev. Suddenly this person came, we didn't know who he was, and he was showing us by his behavior how to welcome Gurudev, how to behave with Gurudev. When Gurudev comes into the temple room to give class, how to stand up and do kirtan for him. We were welcoming Gurudev and we were doing things as we knew from our different backgrounds. But when Maharaji came in 97, he was showing us by his own behavior how we should welcome Gurudev, how we should be with Gurudev. So straight away, he was already instructing us simply by his behavior. Then one thing very special about many things very special, of course, but one thing that was noteworthy in 97 straight away was how Srila Gurudev would ask all his senior followers and disciples to be with him when he was preaching. Wherever he would go, he would ask them to come with him. But I saw that with Srila Maharaji, he asked to come and see him from time to time, different continents, but to go out and preach. Go and preach. Instead of come and be with me, he was sending him out to preach because he already in the 80s spent so much time with Srila Gurudev, so he was ready to go and preach when everyone else was still being prepared. So he's the first person to go out and preach on Srila Gurudev's behalf in the Western world, at least. And he started this in 1997, which is quite a significant year, because this is also the year in which Param Pujyapad Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj and Param Pujyapad Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj and many other different Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas had started their preaching in the West of Gaudiya Vaishnavism in 1997. Srila Gurudev started in 96 and Srila Maharaji started in 97. And having started in the same year that many other prominent Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas started preaching this, and still continuing now, if there was a Guinness Book Records entry, it would have Srila Maharaj's name on it for the longest preacher of Sriman Mahaprabhu's message in the Western world. When he came, Srila Gurudev would ask us, oh, what is Subal Sakha Brahmachari speaking? What is he saying? And we would say, oh, the devotees would respond and say, Maharaj is speaking this, Bhagavad Gita, different topics. And then Srila Gurudev would say, oh, he knows so much more. There's so much more nectar inside. Gurudev would say, he said, he's like Krishna, black, cheater, and crooked. And if you know how to poke properly, then the nectar will come out. And so devotees in Holland, in England, started doing this. And then all these classes that he was giving on Bhajan Rahasya, and so many more deeper topics were coming out. And we still don't know the end of how much nectar and how much ras Maharaj had inside, and Gurudev was sending him. So Maharaji was coming again and again, but I was asking Srila Gurudev if I could come to Mathura. I wanted to come to Mathura after having met Srila Gurudev in 96. And I'll try not to turn this into talking about me only, but I'm trying to focus this back to Srila Maharaji's glories. But it may sound like a glorification of myself, which I love doing, but I'll try not to. So I wrote a letter to Srila Gurudev. Back then, we didn't have internet, so it was by post. I sent a letter to Mathura, to Srila Gurudev, asking, can I please come to Mathura and stay in the mud? And Srila Gurudev would respond saying, no, you have to finish your education, and you also need permission from your parents before you can come. And like this a few times, I kept writing every now and then, oh, but Gurudev, it's so difficult here in the West. It seems to be so much easier there in Mathura. Can I not come there? And then Srila Gurudev responded saying, several times he responded saying, I am sending my Subalsa Brahmachari to help you. He will make you strong. Like in different letters, in different ways, Srila Gurudev indicated, don't worry, I know you are weak, but I'm sending my Subalsa Brahmachari. So this was very comforting. And this was very, very helpful, of course, because then Maharaj would take us on tour and started teaching us very slowly what Srila Gurudev wanted us to learn. Srila Maharaji asked my father when he came in 97 if he could take me to India. Somehow he knew that I've been asking this to Gurudev. And so he asked on my behalf to my father. And he said, no, he has to finish his education. Second year, Maharaj asked again. And my father said again. Now, third year, 1999, Maharaji said to my father, this is the third time I'm asking. You cannot deny the third time. And so he agreed. And so the third year, which was 1999, under the guidance and blessings of Srila Maharaji, I finally managed to go to Mathura. But before going, we had a summer festival with Srila Gurudev in 99. And Srila Gurudev was giving Diksha to several devotees. And I was just walking around, excited about going to Mathura, because I wanted to take Diksha there. I received Harinam from Srila Gurudev in 96, but I felt it would be special if I go to the Dham, be in Braj Mandal and receive Diksha there. But Srila Maharaji said, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, if you'll be there or not, what will happen, you don't know. So one day I was just walking on the festival site and he grabbed me by my arm, gave me a flower garland, and he pushed me inside the door. And on the inside was Srila Gurudev giving Diksha mantras to all these devotees. And by force, Maharaj just pushed me inside and I gave the mala to Gurudev and said, and I received Diksha. And this close and intimate Diksha ceremony that I had with Srila Gurudev was only because of Maharaji pushing me inside. And so this was a start of my spiritual life in one sense, by Maharaj pushing me to Srila Gurudev. Then when I arrived in Mathura, he had me, I was actually sleeping in his little room, as you heard from Savita Didi yesterday. His room is so small, it just has space for a bed, and there's a little sitting space next to it. That little sitting space is where I would sit. That's where I would sleep. Maharaj on the bed, me on the floor, and one, maybe two mice were running around under the bed that I could see lying down. Other than that, there was no space in that room, and we were the only visible persons in that room. And there I witnessed, which I also witnessed when he was traveling in the West, and while he still is, but when I was with him, I could see every day he would wake up before 3, sometimes 2 even, and he would start chanting his Harinam in this very deep, deep voice, and without fail. Even in his sleep, he would sometimes, I could hear chant, because he's a light sleeper, or he used to be a light sleeper back then, now I don't know, but when I used to sleep in the room with him, he was quite light, so if I made any movement, he would wake up, and instead of being in shock and saying what we ordinary people would say, or me as an ordinary person would say, he would say Shama Sundar, Madan Mohan, Vrindavan Chandra, Radharaman, Radharas Bihari, etc. He would say all these names of Krishna when he would suddenly wake up by shock or even half asleep, and then go back to sleep again. And it was so amazing to see that. is he actually sleeping? What's happening? The second he wakes up, he's straight away taking Krishna's name. So this was quite amazing to see in the time that I would sleep in the same room with him. Then after Mangalarti, after the morning program, he would sit in the doorway of his room in Mathura, and he would just have Shastra. If it was in his doorway or inside, either way, door open or door closed, he would be sitting with any Shastra, I don't know which Shastra, and he would be reading out loud like he was giving class, but there was nobody there. As in, I could not see with my eyes anyone sitting there. And he was giving class every day, sometimes for hours in the morning, and then again in the afternoon after having taken rest from midday prasad, just giving class by himself. And slowly, senior devotees started coming. Even at that time, one of the senior most sannyasis that was there would come and hear while he was by himself just speaking. He would come, sit, and write. And before you knew it, his room would start filling up, and I had to go sleep somewhere else because everybody was coming to hear. But initially, he started just nobody listening. Another thing that he would do, as you heard from Savita Didi and other devotees also yesterday and other days, that he would go out for bhiksha on his bike. And a few times he took me with him on the bike, on the back with him, or I walked with him because now I'm too heavy, but before I could sit on the back with him. And he would take me to different houses and show where he was doing bhiksha. And he would tell the people, look, this person came all the way from the Western world to come to our land, Mathura. And they, all of them would be impressed. And some of them would ask, oh, what does it look like in the West? What are the roads like? What are the houses like? And then, I tell them a little bit, and then Maharaj would go and preach to them and, inspire them to show that, oh, we're not after all these things that they have in the West. Still, they're coming here to be in Mathura. So something more special is here. And one thing I also remember, in Mathura, it was quite strict that everybody on Dvadashi has to go out in bhiksha. Nobody stays behind. But Maharaj saw from the outside, I look Indian, but inside, I'm like a Westerner. So he very soft, easily offended, easily. So he understood, and he kept me in his room. In fact, he locked me in his room on those days. Everybody was forced to go out on bhiksha. Gurudev wouldn't have anyone staying, but Maharaj was locking me in his room, would go out on bhiksha, and I was in his room just chanting, waiting till he would come back, and then I'd be safe to come out again. And was protecting me from this spoiled life that I have, not being able to do any bhiksha. So very grateful for Srila Maharaj to protecting me straight away from when I came. He probably knew I would have burned out and left even sooner. So still, it was very difficult for me to stay in Mathura Math. And so he took me out on prachar. He took me to different countries all over the world. And something very amazing that I have witnessed, and all of you already know because everyone has already seen this, and now you can see it live on Facebook too every morning. Maharaj never misses any Mangalarti, no matter where he's traveling to, no matter how long or how crazy the travel is, he is there for Mangalarti. And also Tulsi Parikrama. Some places we had no Tulsi Devi in planned form, and then we just put his mala or somebody's mala and do parikrama, but every day, fixed 100%, Mangalarti and Tulsi Parikrama he would do. And of course, Harikatha. Every day he would speak Harikatha. Some places, devotees would suggest that Maharaj should rest. And like Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he would always say, Harikatha is my rest. And he would speak Harikatha no matter what. In fact, I've been in places where we would be in devotees' houses, and they would all go out to work, and it was just me and Maharaj, nobody else. He would still give class. Every day Harikatha must be done, and I'd be sitting in front of him. Sometimes it's the day after we traveled from a long car ride or airplane, and I'm sitting falling asleep because my body needs to sleep, but for some reason Maharaj doesn't. And so he's speaking Harikatha, and I'm just sleeping in front of him, and he's like, don't worry, no problem. Sometimes he would just make the class shorter so that I can go, and he's like, okay, now go to sleep. But he would still always give Harikatha. And also got to see when traveling with Maharaj how these are all external glorifications. Like Didi was saying yesterday, this is not Swarup Lakshan of Maharaj. These are all Tatashta Lakshan, but all these Tatashta Lakshan glorifications of Srila Maharaj are purifying my heart. Speaking about Srila Maharaj is bringing me joy, and hopefully to you as well. And therefore, I'm still also sharing these Tatashta Lakshan. Because sometimes if you go straight to Swarup Lakshan of somebody's greatness, somebody's position, we cannot fully appreciate and even understand the Swarup Lakshan of who a personality is. And therefore, we do all these so-called external Tatashta Lakshan glorification so that we can have some, because of we are being Baddhaji, we have something to hold on and some indication of, like looking at the moon in on the branch, understanding of who Srila Maharaji actually is. So I got to see how he's an expert cook also, and he got to see how I am not expert cook. Sometimes we went to places and there was nobody to cook. So I had to do kirtan, and while he speaks class, I would go cook. Rambhadra Prabhu from Holland also knows, other devotees also know, and my cooking, not so good. But Srila Maharaji, somehow accepting my kacha rice and not so good subjis. But when Maharaj would cook, even his plain boiled potato is still the best mashed potato or potato subji I've ever eaten. Even if he puts only salt and turmeric, it's still the best mashed potato I ever ate. And Maharaj showed in his hand, all of you probably know, he has this line that shows that whatever is cooked from his hand is going to be like nectar. It's like this blessing that Durvasa Rishi gave to Srimati Radharani, that whatever she cooks will give Dirga Ayu to whoever eats her cooking. Something like this is in Srila Maharaji's hand. And when he's cooking, sorry, there's some people from work looking for me. I'm just going to pretend that I'm not there because this is actually not my slot, but I'll just turn it off. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Like this Maharaj's cooking is like nectar. And whenever Srila Gurudev would meet up with Maharaji, he would be asked to cook for Srila Gurudev, no matter which country this was. That's quite, oh, I can't actually turn off my work chat. Well done by them. Another thing that Srila Maharaji also was very special when traveling with him is so much material opulence comes towards me. People give money, people give so many things. And just because traveling with Srila Maharaji, and I would take this money and go to Maharaj and give it to him. And he was like, no, you keep for your necessities, basic necessities, if you need something. And then I remember telling Maharaji, and this really stood out to me because I've traveled also with other personalities, not to offend, just everybody's different. But with Srila Maharaji, I never needed the money. Like I gave Maharaj the money. I said, Maharaj, when I travel with you, everything that I require, everything that I need is taken care of. And so Maharaj would be very pleased with that. Another thing that I remember when I was traveling with Srila Maharaji is in the morning, Pundrikaksha Prabhu also mentioned this a few days ago. Srila Maharaji would say to me and other devotees that he can see on our foreheads when we would come to the morning program, how many rounds we chanted. And so we would start covering our foreheads so that he could not see that we didn't chant any rounds in the morning. But he was very strict in this, and this slowly increased our faith that, oh, I cannot just go in front of Maharaji. I have to put tilak, I have to chant my mantras, I have to chant my Diksha mantras, because if I go in front of him, he can see, oh, he didn't do. And then chastisement comes, and I have to do anyway. So Maharaj was very strict, and this really pushed us to make sure every morning, like Pundrikaksha Prabhu said, to do our Gayatri mantras, to chant our Harinam, to take this seriously. And also to put tilak. One very significant item in a lot of temples that has disciples of Srila Maharaji all over the world I've seen is a concept called tilak station, which I haven't seen before Srila Maharaji came. Maybe it exists, I don't know, but this is a speciality of Srila Maharaji, that when he would go travel and preach in London, the Ganga Matas, we also had one. In Brazil, I have also seen that there is a little tilak station, mirror, tilak, achman cup outside the temple room for anyone that comes to put tilak. And this happened because Srila Maharaji, when he would go and preach, when he would be, obviously when he's doing a yoga center with new people, he wouldn't make a big deal out of it. But when he's in a program with devotees, he wouldn't speak Harikatha unless we all had tilak on our foreheads. In fact, he would stop and send us all out. Everybody had to get up, go get water, put tilak, and come back and sit in front of him. Otherwise, you were not accepted inside class. So he was very strict. And this is how the concept of the tilak stations came, and they had tilak already. So that when devotees come from work or wherever to the temple, they put tilak and then go inside and see Srila Maharaji. And this also made me very conscious that I always had tilak in my bag after work, or whenever I would go see Maharaj, always make sure tilak must be there. So he made this very strong impression all over the world how we have to put tilak. Srila Maharaji, this is something he used to say. He probably doesn't say this anymore because it's not the case, but something he said many, many, many times in the early 2000s and even late 90s is, why does Krishna always sends me pagal to travel with me? Everybody that travels with me always is pagal. I was always there, so I'm one of those pagals. I'm not going to mention names of others that he considered pagals, but I know he doesn't say that anymore. So all glories to Krishna Balaram Prabhuji and all the other persons that travel with Srila Maharaji now, as I don't hear him say this anymore like he used to. I remember I used to travel with one of my friends, and Srila Maharaji one time in morning class was telling everyone how we were all staying in the same room, Srila Maharaji, me, and my friend. I'm just not taking his name so that you don't think he is also pagal. But you probably know who it is. And Srila Maharaji said he's doing his Harinam in the room, walking up and down. And then he looks one pagal. He even said, oh, why Krishna sends me pagal? These Jagai Madhai are traveling with me. And then he's telling in class, in front of everyone, having fun also, but also, of course, some disappointment is there, which we had to bear and learn from. He would say, I chant, one of them wakes up, one Jagai or one Madhai wakes up. What he does, maybe me, I turn around and look to the other one. Oh, he's still sleeping, Sorai. Then he turns around, goes back to sleep. Like this, half an hour, 45 minutes pass. The other one wakes up, turns around, looks, oh, he's still sleeping, goes back. And Maharaj is like, I'm just in the middle, chanting for hours, looking. None of them are ever going to wake up until he goes, hey. And this is the sound. This is my alarm clock sound when Maharaj is chanting Hare Krishna. But this, I can't do his chanting. It's a very deep, far away but absorbed chanting. His chanting is very relaxing. This is not to make offense, but it's very calming, very easy to sleep to this very relaxing sound. So I would very easily sleep with Maharaj's chanting sound. But then at one point, and I can't imitate his voice, but he would do a very strong hey, Ramananda, and then automatically waking up, jumping out of the sleeping bag. But he made sure he was training us very well to wake up in time. And if we were being nonsense, he would point it out, tell us, even publicly in class. Back then, there was no Facebook Live, so you can't find it. I'm sorry. But he would do like this. But now, very qualified disciples, so this problem is not there anymore. When I used to travel with him, one devotee, Purandar Acharya from Jagannath Puri, Maharaji loved so much. It was, I think, his favorite sevak in those days. Vijay Prabhu from the Kirtaniyas also traveled with Maharaj. Maharaji said he liked him very much also, and he pointed out to me that the reason why he likes Vijay Prabhu is because he was very punctual. No matter what is going on, no matter what happens for prasad or whatever, when it was time for kirtan, he was there in time. And he told me this is very important. And when I was traveling with him, I made a mission to make sure that I'm always there. But now with work and car and driving and getting there, Anangamohan Prabhu knows the suspense is there. I'm always late. But this was a sanskar that Maharaj instilled with me from young already to make sure I'll always be there in time for kirtan. This is so important to him. And I'm a big failure in this now, but I try to increase. Mukunda Prabhu traveled with him first. Gaurasundar Prabhu from Hawaii, where he was just recently, he traveled with Srila Maharaj a lot. He taught me many ways of how to be with Maharaj and how to serve. Rup Kishore Prabhu, so many different devotees traveled with Srila Maharaj for some time and then stopped. Now, finally, we have devotees staying, so this is very good. I don't know if I'm going over time, so somebody should tell me to stop if I don't. Otherwise, I'll go a little bit longer. Ananga Mohan Prabhu is signing. It's a thumbs up. That's good. Okay. I remember my first chastisement from. Okay. I remember my first chastisement from Srila Maharaji. Because it was the first, maybe it's the most memorable because there are thousands of them. So I don't know why the first one comes to mind. The very first one was also when he was traveling and preaching in Holland, quite in the early days. And there was a program, he was giving class, and one child walks in dressed up as, I think, Mickey Mouse or some character like that. And I laughed quite out loud. Maharaj didn't say anything because this is my first chastisement. So he didn't do it straight away. He didn't do it in public like he does now. He waited. After program is finished, everybody is gone. We're back in the room. Still, he doesn't chastise me directly. Still, because his first chastisement. He's telling another devotee from Holland, Bhakta Swarup Prabhuji, how upset he was about my behavior because I laughed during class. And Bhakta Swarup Prabhu and me both tried to explain to Maharaji, oh, because this child walked in dressed up, it looked funny, so I laughed. But Maharaji was very grave and very serious. And he said, like, no, in Prachar, I am there speaking Harikatha. You are with me. If you laugh while I'm giving Harikatha, this is not good. This is very bad, actually. I had to beg forgiveness also for not understanding how grave, no matter what is happening. And from that moment on, I tried. Of course, I failed, but I tried to, like Brajanath Prabhu, when Gurudeva is speaking, he's completely focused because he got told off also one time, and now all he does is look straight at Gurudeva and nowhere else. So from this moment on, I tried to, when Maharaji is speaking Hari Katha, chahe kuch bhi ho, whatever is happening all around, I tried to go Hindi, but I can't, it's gone. Whatever is going on around, forget about it. Just look at Maharaj. No laughing, no joking, not laughing and joking with Maharaj because he's very funny. That's something else. But to be laughing at something else during pravachan or any other time, or being distracted in any way, he cut that off. That's like my first chastisement, and it stayed with me. Not strong enough to follow it properly, but strong enough to try very hard to not do this. Ananga Mohan Prabhuji also knows about this chastisement. Many other devotees have experienced this chastisement, and it's a very merciful chastisement because he's showing that he wants your full absorption, and he's very pleased he's very easily pleased. So if you just do that simply, fully absorbed, then he's so happy. I remember when he came to Holland for the first time. I'm mixing the chronology. I thought I would stick to it, but I'm going up and down now in chronological order, all gone. He stayed at my parents' house, and I took him for his first walk. We went for the first morning walk in the West, as far as I know, his first. And we went to the park, and on the way back, this is just to illustrate Maharaj's simplicity and how he came from India and he came to this place where everything was so different. When we were walking back, he was asking me, how do you know the way back? Because all the streets look exactly the same. All the houses look exactly the same. And this is in Holland, in The Hague, where things do look actually quite similar. And I pointed out to Maharaj how all the houses have a number. And he's like, oh. And he was very impressed by the system of giving each house a number. And as you know, in Mathura, the Mathura Math doesn't have a house number. It's near so-and-so hospital. In Navadvip, the temple is near Jagai Madhai Bridge. This is like how the addresses work. Maybe in Delhi it's different, but in villages it's different. And so Srila Maharaji was very impressed by how it was. I'm just sharing this story. There's not much depth to the story other than how simple and how sweet Srila Maharaji is when he came. Another simple thing that was with Srila Maharaji, this is an Indian audience, so I don't know how well this story will be understood, but I'll try. In Birmingham, I was staying with Srila Maharaji together with Mukunda Prabhu. That's the first person that traveled with Srila Maharaj and had the task of teaching Srila Maharaji proper English while preaching, and he did. And so one person comes into the room that had received the mala, and he said to Srila Maharaji, it's a man, and this man said to Srila Maharaji, my boyfriend has taken my mala, can I please have a new mala? And he was explaining, and Maharaj corrected him and saying, no, you mean your girlfriend. And he's like, no, my boyfriend. And Maharaji wasn't familiar. He didn't understand. So he's looking at us like, what is he saying? And so we had to explain to Srila Maharaj how, this also happens. And Maharaj very merciful, not rejecting or anything. Okay. And he gave mala. But it just showed how very easily he adopted to the Western world, the Western mentalities. We heard yesterday from Anandini Didi how 5 minutes. We heard from Anandini Didi how he asked for all of Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's books, so he read all his purport so he could understand how to speak, how to preach to the Western world, and he was very well equipped in doing this. We all saw, but sometimes he was, met with an obstacle like this. My boyfriend wants a mala, and he'd be like, "What's going on here?" But he very quickly adapted and very quickly, managed to keep everything real. He stayed in a room in Birmingham that was haunted. People that would sleep in that room had experience of somebody coming and shaking the bed in the middle of the night. People had knocking on the window, on the door, sounds, screaming, all kinds of crazy thing in the Birmingham Temple on Hansford Wood Road. Ramakanta's room, if anybody knows. That room was fully haunted. Srila Maharaji goes, sleeps in the room, wakes up next morning, comes to morning class, like, I don't know what you guys talking about. Nothing. No problem. I slept in that room after Maharaji slept in there. Also no problem. Whatever ghost or bhoot was there was gone. Came back again after Maharaj was gone, but at least while Maharaj is there, all bhoot, pisach, whatever would run away. One time Srila Maharaji gave me a watch, one of his own watches, and I put it next to me while he was speaking, and Vijay from the Kirtaniyas picked it up and said to Maharaji, "Oh, Ramananda is trying to," as a joke, he said, "Ramananda is trying to sell this watch to me." And Maharaj became very grave. And he said, "Oh, he does not know what I've given him. He just thinks this is a watch, but he doesn't know what I'm giving." And so this shows everything that Srila Maharaj is giving to us, what he's doing to us, his Harikatha, his books, things that he owns, he's giving them with so much love. He's putting his heart in all of this. And so this is something I'm still, trying to realize. One time, how I was saying earlier, how he would chastise me for not waking up to chant. So one time in London, he was staying at the Ganga Mata temple, and I stayed with him in the room, but I had to go to work. So he wakes up as usual and starts chanting his 3 o'clock chanting in the morning. And I decided, you know what? He's always chastising me for not chanting. Let me get up and chant with him. So I sit and start chanting, and he chastised me. Like, hey, go back to sleep. You have to go to work. We had a late program yesterday. After work, you're going to come back and you have to go to another program. You have to play Mridanga. You have to do Kirtan. You're not being practical. Go back to sleep. And he's like, don't try to act above your adhikar. You think you can maintain chanting at 3 o'clock in the morning? You think it's a joke to wake up at 3 o'clock and start chanting? And I was like, no. And of course, I went straight to back. That's an instruction I can follow very easily. But on that point also, Maharaji was very, very considerate, specifically to Kirtaniyas, to make sure we have a full plate of prasadam, get enough sleep so that we can do Kirtan. And he was very, very much on top of this all the time. One time, I'm going to say 2 stories and I finish. One time, some devotees had started criticizing Maharaji for several different things. And I was sitting in the back of a car together with Maharaji. And he was telling me, pained by this, that Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhaman Goswami Maharaj had spoken, had said, and when Srila Maharaji says something, it's like, that is the truth, no matter what he says. So he had spoken like a prophecy that whoever would ever criticize you, as in Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhaman Maharaji, that person guaranteed will fall down. And Srila Maharaj told me this, not because he was upset, not out of angry, or not like, oh, they will fall down, but he was really sad, saying to me, oh no, they are destroying their own spiritual life by speaking ill of me. And he was actually sad, genuinely sad, upset, because he knows this is what will happen. Even more so because Srila Bhaman Goswami Maharaj said, and very soon after, without having to take any names, exactly that happened, and those people disappeared from Srila Gurudeva's association fully, which is very important for us also to know, not to fall into criticism. We can see certain things and then think this is criticizable, but it's not. Srila Maharaji, for example, was also criticized even in Srila Gurudev's presence for accepting disciples. But I was there many times in the room with Srila Gurudev when Srila Maharaji would come and say, "Oh, I brought these flowers for you, Srila Gurudev." And Gurudev would be like, "You initiate them. I want you to initiate them." And Maharaji is like, "No, no, 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 no." And Gurudev's like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes. You have to initiate them." And he was very hesitant. And so him accepting disciples wasn't his desire. It was Gurudev's instruction, even in Gurudev's presence. And Srila Maharaj would be very humble and ask them to go to Gurudev anyway, but Gurudev would send them back, no, go back to him. And so for those, obviously those people won't be here listening his glories right now, but in case you do encounter anyone that thinks Maharaji went ahead and is looking after making disciples, because this seems to be a trend of people to say, this is absolutely not what he wanted. I personally was there many, many times in the room when he implored Gurudev to please don't make me do this service, but Gurudev said he wants to see, he wants him to initiate, he wants him to be Guru. Guru makes Guru, Guru doesn't make disciples. And so Srila Maharaji, knowing that everyone would criticize him for this, he did this still. Why? Because this is Gurudev's instruction. Srila Gurudev's instruction is, he carries on his head, no matter who has to say what has to say. Yasha Prasada, Bhagavad Prasada. Doesn't matter if anyone is pleased or not. Srila Gurudev is pleased, and so he did, and he still does follow this instruction, and he knows who to give. That's a whole other story that I won't go into, because I've experienced many times when he travels, he doesn't just randomly initiate. He tells me, go and ask this particular person or that particular person if they want initiation. And I go to that person and be like, how do you know? I came all the way from so-and-so and I just wanted to initiate. How do you know? It's like, I don't know, but he knows. And like that, many stories. So that's another, I'll leave that for another time. 2010 Vyas Puja Srila Gurudev, that's the last one. Srila Maharaji, in Gurudev's Vyas Puja in Brazil, he would be up for Mangalarti. He would be giving class after Mangalarti. He would be doing class in the midday. He would be doing class before Gurudev's class. Then he would be leading the Gauda Arti Kirtan, sweating like he had to take his shirt off and squeeze it to put it back on because it was so wet. After Gauda Arti, he would still give class till midnight. Then he would go to sleep, massage his feet, and before you know it, he's up again, chanting his rounds and doing Mangalarti like this for 7 days continuously. He slept what? 1 hour in the evening, 1 hour in the afternoon? No human being is physically capable of doing that. Even if I overload myself on 5 coffees a day, I could not keep up. And I know because I've tried and it doesn't work. You cannot keep up with him no matter what caffeine you add. And don't tell anyone, but it doesn't work. And Srila Maharaji is like out of this world when he does that. Now he has so much Sishya Vatsalya and so many wonderful disciples are there. So we that came earlier before that are like, we can't compare to the, it's so beautiful to see the service of Srila Maharaji's disciples, and it's inspiring to us to become like them. So I'm very pleased. Srila Maharaji always compares me to a worm that's taken out of stool. It is natural to crawl back into the stool. So I want to end with praying to Srila Maharaji that I will not crawl back into that stool. And even though I always still do, because it's the nature of a stool worm to crawl back into stool, the miracle is that it stays out. And even though I crawl back in, Maharaji always picks me out, and I pray that he continues picking me out, and then one day I'll stop going back in there as well, and that I can go with him back on his back like a honeybee back to the hive where Srila Gurudeva is at his lotus feet. And this will definitely be possible if I just hold on to Srila Vishnupada Paramhamsa Paribrajikacharya Shtotra Shat Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Bana Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. You're
Oh, sorry, there we are. Thank you so much, Ramananda Prabhu. Just taking us, for 50 minutes. It seems like 5 minutes, and you could go on for another another hour or two, I'm sure, glorifying Srila Maharaj. Just giving you a little bit more time because our 2 previous speakers, Malati Didi from France and Prakash Atma Prabhu, weren't able to be with us. We're trying to call them and get them on board, but still not here. But just to catch up on what you've said, if possible at all, it's You're very fortunate, and thank you for inspiring us and continuing our faith in Srila Maharaj. And your faith also is there. I know you spoke many things about not looking at his Sarup Lakshan. You're concentrated on his Tatastha Lakshan, like the Nyay Sakha philosophy that we
1 minute,
have.
Prabhuji. Actually, Vijay Prabhu want to
You
speak
talk about your cooking
now.
experience with him, and yes, even his boiled potatoes are the best. So it's wonderful to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that you're having to double time while you're working. You're speaking to us as well, and everything that you needed was provided by Srila Maharaj while you were traveling with him. This is a wonderful experience also that you would have to experience. I think once you surrender to him and his service, and you're under his shelter, then you don't have to worry about anything at all. And this is from personal experience also. So I encourage everyone to take shelter at his feet, and in this way, not to worry about what's going to happen next, because he knows what's going to happen next, and I have faith in that. And very nice story about the Tilak station, which we see a lot nowadays. And also to dress appropriately in front of Gurudev. I know that from Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, with my own children, when they went in front of him in shorts. It's in India, the culture is if you come in shorts, you're in your underwear. So you cannot go in your underwear to see Gurudev. So we must dress appropriately, and Tilak is one of those things. And calling you Pagal, and it's a loving, affectionate term. Mahaprabhu, I think he also called his devotees Pagal, because they're not anything from this world. And so you didn't need any sleeping pills either, because you could listen to Maharaj chanting. So if you ever have trouble chanting, always take to Harinam, and it will put you to sleep nice and easily. Just play Maharaj's chanting tape in the background. You'll find. So you must write your memories, and yes, please make a written offering as well. I encourage everybody to make written offerings. I'm collecting for a book one day, so if you can, as much as you know how, even if you can't, if you send an audio recording in Hindi, we'll try and get it translated. So don't worry that you can't write. Maharaj has many disciples now and growing all the time. So don't leave it too late, because the more you leave it later, the more or the less access you will have to him in the future, I feel. And he said that personally to us, that don't be surprised that when new disciples come, that you won't get the same attention that you have now. So be prepared for that also. I don't think anything is going to stop him. So he's going to achieve his goals in this life very easily, very quickly. So our problem is just to keep up with him. If we can, our life will be successful. Thank you, Ramananda Prabhu. We hope to hear you again soon. Next, I'd like
Hari
to call
Bol,
Jagat
Shradhe,
Prabhu.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Anang Mohan Prabhuji, can you listen? Hari Bol.
Jagat Bandhu Prabhu.
Anang Mohan Prabhuji.
You're there. I can
Prabhuji.
see you. If you can unmute also.
Prabhu is trying to say something.
See.
Anang Mohan Prabhuji.
Jagat Bandhu Prabhu from Delhi.
Sham Prabhu wrote something in the chat, Anang Mohan Prabhu.
There.
I think
Sham
Vijay
Prabhu, if you can help.
Vijay Prabhu needs to go first.
Hari Bol, Anang Mohan Prabhu, you must be put the mic in your ear. I think he's not listening. That is the problem.
Ah. Your headphones, Anang Mohan Prabhu. Yeah, you can't hear us. Maybe Sham Prabhu, you just take over. You do it.
Actually, one Prabhuji is Vijay Prabhu from
No,
Bangalore.
I only have one mic and one input, so I can't put mic and headphones at the same time. So if you like to introduce Jagat Bandhu Prabhu for me, that would be really appreciated. I know he's from
First
Delhi and he
you
serves Gurudev,
listen, Prabhuji.
and he's helped with Bhagavad Sapta also. And we were able to stay with him in Narela. Very nicely, he looked after us. If you'd like to unmute Jagat Bandhu Prabhu, आपका mic on कीजिए, and I will hand over to you.
हरे कृष्णा, हरे कृष्णा। प्रभु जी आवाज आ रही है हमारी? हरे कृष्णा। अज्ञान त्रिविनांद से ज्ञानंजय सलाक्य चक्षुरु मिलिन तेन तस्मै गुरु श्री गुरुवे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपीकांत राधाकांत नमस्तुते। तत्रामुन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विष्णु भानु सुते देवी पढ़ामी हरि प्रिय। वांछा कल्पतरु कृपा सिंधु च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वप्रथम अपने परम श्रीला भक्ति वेदांत बंग गोस्वामी महाराज जी के अभय तत्व 50 सभी गुरु परंपरा के अभय चरण कमलों में अनंत कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम करता हूँ एवं सभी वैष्णियों को यथायोग दंडवत प्रणाम करता हूँ। मेरा यह परम सौभाग्य है कि गुरुदेव के महिमा का गुणगान करने का अवसर मिला है। मेरा कोई योग्यता तो नहीं है कि गुरुदेव की महिमा के बारे में गुणगान कर सकूं, लेकिन फिर भी 2 शब्द बोलने का कोशिश। पहली बार हम 2015 में भागवत सप्ताह कराया था अपने बर्थ प्लेस में। हमको कोई गुरु के बारे में ज्ञान नहीं था। हमें कृष्ण भक्ति के बारे में मैंने सुना था, तो मैं सोचा कि भागवत सप्ताह कराने से मुझे कृष्ण भक्ति के बारे में थोड़ा सा ज्ञान हुआ। फिर मैंने सोचा कि हम एक बार वृंदावन जाते हैं, वहां जाके दर्शन करते हैं। फिर मैंने पांडे जी को बोला कि पांडे जी एक बार वृंदावन चलते हैं और वहां जाके ठाकुर जी का दर्शन करते हैं। तो उन्होंने तैयार हुए, उनके साथ हम गए। वहां जाने के बाद हम निधि वन रहा, उसके बाद से बातें बिहारी इस्कॉन मंदिर गए। वहाँ मुझे थोड़ा अच्छा लगा, तो मैं बोला पांडे जी एक काम करता हूँ, मैं इस्कॉन ज्वाइन कर लेता हूँ। तो उन्होंने बोला कि इस्कॉन ज्वाइन मत करो, मैं श्याम प्रभु से पूछता हूँ, उसके बाद से नहीं हुआ तो आप गुरु जी को ज्वाइन कर लेना। फिर उन्होंने श्याम प्रभु से बात किया। श्याम प्रभु बोले कि थोड़ा टाइम आप रुकिए, गुरुदेव आने वाले हैं, उनसे आपको मिलवाता हूँ, फिर आप देखिएगा क्या करना है। फिर हम 2017 में वृंदावन गए श्री गिरधारी गौड़िया मठ में। उसके बाद से दोबारा 8 अक्टूबर 2018 को गए गिरधारी गौड़िया मठ में। वहां पर जाने के बाद गुरुदेव जी से मिला। गुरुदेव जी से हमने 1-2 बात की, फिर हमको अच्छा लगा। फिर हमने उसी समय हरि नाम ले लिया। हरि नाम करते करते गुरुदेव की दृष्टि हमारे ऊपर बहुत अच्छे से पड़ी और आगे माला करते करते गुरुदेव वो पांडे जी बोले, गुरुदेव यादव जी मैं गुरुदेव को नरेला बुलाना चाहता हूँ। तो बोला ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी बात है, एक बार बुलाते हैं। तो 9 दिसंबर 2018 को गुरुदेव नरेला में आए थे। हमारे घर पर हाउस प्रोग्राम था। हाउस प्रोग्राम के बाद जब गुरुदेव जाने लगे तो बोले मैं इस जगह में भागवत सप्ताह रखना चाहता हूँ। मैंने बोला गुरुदेव ठीक है। तो बोले कैसे होगा? मैं बोला गुरुदेव एक तो ये है कि 10-20-25 मेंबर हम जोड़ लेते हैं और कलेक्शन कर लेते हैं, और दूसरा ऑप्शन है कि मैं अकेला अरेंज करूं। तो गुरुदेव बोले कि नहीं, कलेक्शन ठीक नहीं होगा, भक्ति बेच नहीं सकते हैं, इसीलिए तुम कुछ और सोचो। मैंने बोला ठीक है गुरुदेव, कोशिश करेंगे। फिर दोबारा 16 मई 2021 को हमारे घर का रिनोवेशन चल रहा था। तो हमने बोला गुरुदेव हमारा घर का रिनोवेशन हुआ, हमारे यहाँ हवन करिए। तो 16 मई 2021 को गुरुदेव नरेला है। आने के बाद हमारे घर में हवन किया उन्होंने। हवन करने के बाद मुझे और अच्छा लगा गुरुदेव से मिलके। फिर उसी समय हमने दीक्षा ले लिया। दीक्षा लेने के बाद गुरुदेव की दृष्टि हमारे परिवार पर, हमारे ऊपर ऐसी पड़ी कि एकदम पूरा सिस्टम ही चेंज हो गया। हम पहले, उससे पहले हम बहुत परेशान थे और उसके बाद इतना चेंजेस हुआ जिसका कोई हिसाब नहीं है। जो हम सोचते थे वो हो जाता था, सिर्फ गुरुदेव का नाम लेते, जो हम सोचते थे वो हो जाता था। फिर एक समय था, हम लोग गए थे कुछ दिन पहले वृंदा अपना गोवर्धन परिक्रमा के लिए। हम थे, श्याम प्रभु थे, पांडे जी थे। फिर सबसे पहले श्याम प्रभु चल रहे थे, बीच में मैं और मेरा लड़का चल रहा था। फिर उसको बंदर दौड़ा लिया। हमने सोचा कि चलो गुरुदेव की कृपा होगी तो इसको कुछ नहीं होगा, तो भागने लगा, मैं रुक गया वहीं। फिर वो खूब तेज भागा, बंदर कुछ दूर तक उसके साथ दौड़ा, फिर बंदर रुक गया। फिर मैं लड़के से पूछा कि ये बताओ तुम्हें डर नहीं लगता था? बोला पापा मेरे अंदर इतनी शक्ति हो गई थी कि मैं कितना भी भागूंगा थक नहीं सकता था। तो मैं सोचा ये गुरुदेव की कृपा ही रही कि बंदर उसको नहीं काट पाया। ऐसे ऐसे कई बार ऐसा हुआ कि हमने जो भी मन में सोचा वो गुरुदेव का महिमा साक्षात हुआ और वो काम हो गया हमारा। मैं गुरुदेव से यही प्रार्थना करता हूँ कि जब भी जिस जन्म में मेरा जन्म हो, गुरु आप ही मिले और कृष्ण भक्ति साथ में मिले। यही बोल के मैं अपने वाणी को विराम देता हूँ। वांछा कल्पतरु कृपा सिंधु च पतितानां पावनो भयो नमो नमः। हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद, प्रणाम। बहुत अच्छा बताया आपने, हृदय हृदय की बात। आपका खूब खूब धन्यवाद और आभार। आपने काफी मेहनत किया था, मुझे याद है नरेला में सभी परिवार इकट्ठे होकर भागवत सप्ताह का प्रयोजन किया और बहुत अच्छे तरह से गुरुदेव को बहुत अच्छा लगा और सभी भक्तों को बहुत अच्छा लगा। और फिर आपकी इच्छा है कि हर साल आप ऐसे करें, तो गुरुदेव की भी इच्छा, ऐसे इच्छा है। और आपका परिवार को गुरुदेव ने बहुत बहुत प्यार दिया और बहुत प्यारे लग रहे हो। इससे कुछ ज्यादा हम गुरुदेव के पास कुछ मांग नहीं सकते। उनकी प्यार और लाड हम जो मिल जाए तो हमारा जीवन सफल हो जाएंगे। ऐसे ही हम प्रार्थना करते सभी भक्तों को, और ऐसे ही आप है गुरुदेव के लिए और ऐसे ही रहे। तो आपकी खूब खूब आभार। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, फिर मिलेंगे नजीक में, कुछ मौका मिले तो। हरे कृष्ण, धन्यवाद, प्रणाम। तो नेक्स्ट हमारे पास है विजय प्रभु। वो भी यहाँ है, मैं देखा था। विजय प्रभु कहीं और चले गए। श्याम प्रभु।
Yes, Prabhu. He is here. Where is Vijay Prabhu? Haribol. Where are you?
मैंने देखा 2 मिनट पहला तो वहां ही था स्क्रीन पर, कहाँ चले गए?
I am trying to connect him. He called me and he want to speak.
श्याम प्रभु का कनेक्शन विजय प्रभु के साथ हो रहा है, तो हम थोड़ा इंतजार करें।
Haribol, actually, Prabhuji, now he is going at the airport. इसलिए वो अभी नहीं ले सकते, इसलिए वो बोल रहे थे मुझे पहले बोलना है एक्चुअली। तो 9:30 पे कुछ भक्त लोग आ रहे हैं, then you can take another picture.
हमारा विजय प्रभु हमारा लास्ट स्पीकर था, और हम मालती दीदी और प्रकाश आत्मा प्रभु फ्रांस से मिलानी और दामोदर प्रभु पीछे पीछे कोशिश कर रहे, बार बार फोन कर रहे उनको, लेकिन कोई उठाते नहीं है। और हम माफी मांगते हैं, माफी चाहते हैं उसके बारे में। वो भक्तों के कोई दिक्कत हुआ तो क्षमा कीजिए हमको। और आज का प्रोग्राम तो हम शाम प्रभु हम समाप्त कर सकते हैं।
Yes, yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
मेरी गलती है, कभी मैं
तो हम फिर सब लोग कल राम प्रभु ने मुझे बताया कल आपका हमारा लास्ट दिन होगा, आज नहीं कल भी तो है। वो उनकी पुष्पांजलि गुरुदेव को अर्पण करेंगे, वो हम सुनना चाहते हैं सब लोग। तो कल हमारा लास्ट डे होगा, और आज हम ये प्रोग्राम विराम देते हैं। हमारी सबको धन्यवाद प्रणाम, और श्याम प्रभु और दामोदर प्रभु उनके भी खूब खूब आभार हमारा। और कल मिलेंगे हम। हरे कृष्णा।
ओके, हरे कृष्णा। धन्यवाद।
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्ण, दंडवत प्रणाम।